Welcome back, Tigers! This is the second video in our Salesforce Campaigns and Email series. We will show you how to use Salesforce Campaigns to send an email to campaign members using the Send Better email package from Unofficial SF. This package provides you with some very cool features that are not available with the standard Salesforce Simple email action. Let's go check out how to set up this awesome package. Before you start working, we wanted you to be aware of the following points. This should not be used for prospecting. This should be used for email notifications to your customers or contacts you already have a business relationship with. Make sure you are familiar with CAN-SPAM law. Violations can be very costly for your company, and there are differences in the law between countries and even in between US states. There are daily email limits depending on how many Salesforce licenses you have and what Salesforce edition you are using. Make sure you are aware of these limits before planning to implement this email solution. There are also limits on the number of emails that can be sent using Flow. See the link below called Daily Allocations for Email Alerts. These limits are in addition to the daily single email limits. This solution will not support large data volumes. The data volumes of records that are supported will differ by org. Limits are dependent on how many records are in the campaign and how many other processes you have firing on the campaign and campaign member objects. You can sometimes get around the limits by lowering your batch size if you are importing campaign members using Data Loader. This solution does allow for a dynamic sender name and reply to email address. If you have a requirement where you need to make the sender name or reply to email change based on the related account, contact, or lead owner, then this solution is for you. This solution is scalable and will allow you to control the email templates used from the campaign record. This prevents you from having to make changes in the flow to send different emails for different campaigns, making this solution extremely flexible. Now let's go check out how to set up this flow. All right, your first step is to install 3 packages from Unofficial SF if you don't already have them installed. You will find the links to these packages in the description below. You'll need to first install the Flow Actions base pack. Depending on whether or not you're in production or sandbox, here's your different links. Once that has finished installing, then you're going to install the Flow Screen Components base pack. You can't install this package until this first one is done. Then once that one is done, you're going to come to the Send Better email package and you're going to install that, and then you'll be all set and ready to go. Unofficial SF is one of the best resources for Salesforce admins and developers. They have so many amazing products that help us extend flows in Salesforce. So thank you, Unofficial SF, for putting all these components together for us. We appreciate you. So we're going to go back to Salesforce. We're going to go to Setup. Go to Object Manager, go to Campaign, we'll go to Fields and Relationships, and then you will need to create a couple of fields that we created in part 1. You'll need to create the Contact Email Template ID field, as well as the Lead Email Template ID field. Next, we're going to go to Flows. We're going to create a new flow. We'll create a record triggered flow. If you already have a flow that you use on the campaign member object that you've set up to handle multiple automations, you can also bolt all of these automations onto this flow. You don't have to start a brand new one. We're going to set this up so that you can add more if you wanted to in the future. So our first step here is to add a decision element. And we're looking for campaigns that have the type of outbound Salesforce email, and the campaign member status is send email. So if a campaign member comes in with that criteria, we want it to come down the yes path. Here we're looking for the status, send email. Now we're going to add some additional criteria here. So we're going to copy this status because we only want this automation to fire whenever certain criteria are reached. We don't want this automation to fire every time a campaign member is created. So we're going to put some additional criteria in here. We're going to add a formula that's going to allow us to check if the record is new. You do this by adding a formula that's Boolean and using the isNew function. And then we're also going to add in a check for if the campaign is active. This will just let us turn on and off automations from the campaign as well. If you don't manage the active checkbox, you don't have to add that one in. And then we're going to add in some logic here. So we want this to fire if the type of the campaign is outbound Salesforce email and the status of the campaign member is send email, and either the record is new or the status is changed and the campaign of the campaign member has the active checkbox checked. So that's all of our criteria there. Let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to call this campaign member created updated after save. And then we'll give this a nice description. This flow will fire when the campaign member record is created or updated, and it will send the campaign member the email template in the lead or contact email template ID field on the campaign if this criteria are true. Now, we also publish an article with all of our videos. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, where you can copy and paste all these titles, descriptions, help text, and it'll help your configurations go a lot faster. So you can find the link in the description below to the Blue Ninjas article. I'll click save here. Next, we're going to add a decision element over here. This is going to check to see if the contact has opted out of email. Actually, if the contact or the lead has opted out. We're just going to pull the email opt-out field from the campaign member. And then if that is true, we're going to run an update to the triggering record. We're going to update the campaign member status to email not sent. If you prefer to say contact is opted out, that's up to you. So you can choose whatever status you want here. And then we're going to add a fault path. And we're going to add a custom error. This is a new feature from Salesforce that we are trying to leverage, making sure that we are developing beautiful, awesome flows that show descriptive error messages. In this scenario, I'm not sure of all the different errors that can happen just yet because I haven't run into any when this action has happened. So we just have a pretty generic error that's happening right there. Now we're going to come and work on this no side. So we'll add another decision element here. And we're going to check to see whether or not the campaign member is a lead or contact. So we're going to just check that by looking to see if the contact ID is null. Now we're going to check for the contact ID and not the lead ID here because a campaign member can actually have a lead ID and a contact ID if it was converted. Something to be aware of. So you always want to check for the contact. All right, next we're going to do a get records here. And we are going to get contact owner info. This is from the user object. And we're going to look for the ID to equal the owner of the contact record. So we'll go to campaign member, we'll go to contact, and then we'll go to owner ID. The reason why we have to do this is because we couldn't get the name of the contact owner to be able to pass to the send better email action whenever we were testing. So when we added in this get records, it allowed us to get that value and pass it to the action. Then we're going to add a decision element here. We're going to check for the contact email template ID field to be null on the campaign. We'll go to the campaign member record, then to the campaign, then to the contact email template ID. And we're going to check for that to be null. If that contact template ID is null, then we're going to show a custom error to the user. So these custom errors are a new feature in Salesforce Flow, and they're really awesome because it allows you to customize the error that you're showing to the user. We can tell the user when they get an error, when they add a contact to the campaign, that, hey, the reason why the email didn't go out is because the template ID is null. update the template ID, and then you'll be able to send that out. Then over on the lead side, we're going to do the same thing. Only we're going to look at the lead ID here. So we'll go to the campaign member, then we'll go to the lead, and then we'll go to the owner user, and then we'll go to the owner ID. And that should look just like that. Then we're going to check for the lead email template ID to be null. So we'll go to the campaign member, then to the campaign ID, then we're going to check for the lead email template ID to be null. We're going to show the user an error just like we did for the contact. If our lead or contact email template IDs are populated, we're going to be able to send the email. So we're going to add the send email action right here. So we're going to go to action, and then we're going to go to email, and we're going to choose send better email. We'll call this send email. So we're going to create a couple of resources here that we're going to be able to pass into the settings into the action. So the first resource that we're going to create is going to be for the sender name. This will be a formula. We'll call it for sender name. This is going to be a text, and then this is our formula. We'll put this all in the Blue Ninjas article that's going to be in the description below. Now you can see that we're pulling over the lead owner information from the get. If the contact ID is null, if it's not null, then we're going to pull the owner information from the get on the contact. And then we'll be able to put that formula right in here. Now we want to set a dynamic reply to email address so that the contact who receives this email, when they reply to the email, it's going to go back to the contact owner's email address. Now, when you use this reply to email address feature, you cannot specify an org-wide email. If you specify an org-wide email, the settings in this component will take the org-wide email address over the reply to email address. So don't put anything in the org-wide email address if you're specifying this reply to email address. Now we're going to create another resource for our reply to email. This is going to be a formula, and it's going to be called for reply email. It will be a text, and it's going to have a similar formula. It's going to bring back the email from that get on the lead owner, and it's going to bring back the email from the get on the contact owner. And that's all based on whether or not the campaign member has a value in the contact ID field. So we'll be able to then put that formula in here. Now, one thing to note, if you're going to use this reply to email address, is the email address on the user record has to be verified. So you want to make sure that you go to all of the sales team's email addresses on their user record and make sure that you see verified next to it. If it says the word verify, that means that their email has not been verified. And when you click that verify link, it's going to send them an email. And then once they click the link in that email, you should see the verify get updated to verified next to the email on their user record. So we'll put a link in the description below to the instructions on how to update that and how to handle that. The next resource we need to create is for our to address. We're going to create a formula. This will be a text. And this is going to dynamically bring over the email address of the lead or contact based on whether or not the campaign member is a lead or contact. Then we'll click the to line here. You'll click search, and this will show you all the variables that you can choose from to put into the to line. And then we'll add a check mark next to for to email. The next resource we're going to create is for our email template ID. This will be a text, and it's going to dynamically bring over the lead or contact email template ID from the campaign record. So then here we will click use email template, and then we'll put in our formula for the email template ID. So you can see we're not hard coding the email template IDs inside the email action. We're allowing users to put the IDs on the campaign so they can control it from the front end of Salesforce. And that's one of the things that makes this solution so amazing, is that it's scalable and you can reuse it over and over again. The next resource we're going to create is for our recipient ID. And this is just going to bring over the lead or contact ID based on whether or not the campaign member is a lead or a contact. And then we'll put that in here. So this is the person that you want to relate the email activity to. So we're going to say save email as activity on recipient record, and then this will tell the email activity where to store it. Then here, we're going to set the campaign ID. So we can just go to the record. So there's a little bit of a UI thing here that's a little weird. You have to click on the arrow to get to the fields on the campaign member record that trigger this flow. It's just a little finicky. And then we want to look for the campaign ID here. There we go. Now we're done configuring our Apex action. So let's just close this out. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's see if we can see what's going on in our flow. All right, so we want to end this here because we don't want that to go any further. And then we also want to end this here. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to add a fault path in case something fails. And we're going to route this to the custom error that we have over on the opted out email section. And then our last step is to just run an update to the triggering record, which is our campaign member. And we're going to update the status to sent. We'll save this. We'll activate it. And now we're ready to test this out. Now we're going to come back over to our home tab. We're going to go to campaigns and we're going to create a new campaign here. We're going to make sure that it's record type of email. And then we're going to say that this is our 2025 customer service update. We're going to make sure we mark this as active and our type is outbound Salesforce email. Now we need to add in the email template IDs here onto our campaign record. So let's go ahead and open up our email templates tab. And we've got an email template here. The related entity is null. And then we have field merges in here. We're using the recipient field merges. And we're going to take the ID of this email template and we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it into here. Now you may have two different email templates, one for your contacts and one for your leads. You'll just put in the different ID in each field, and then this flow that we just created will dynamically pull the correct email template based on what type of record it is. We'll save this. And now what we'll see happen is we have campaign member statuses that are automatically added. Now, if you're not aware, there is an amazing app that's called Campaign Member Status Walloper. We'll give you a link to this App Exchange package in the description below. We also have done a video that explains how this package works and how to set it up. It can be set up in minutes and it saves you tons of time because it automates the creation of your campaign member statuses based on the setup of a record here called a campaign member status set. You can see we have one set up here for the record type of email and the campaign type of outbound Salesforce email. So huge time saver, definitely check that out. So we have all of the campaign member statuses that we need for this type of email. Now we're going to go to our contacts tab and we're going to go to Allison here. And Allison is owned by Lila Pouncer. So we're expecting that this email is going to go out to Allison whenever we add her to the campaign, and that the reply to address and that the sender name should be Lila's. So we're going to go ahead and add Allison to our campaign. We're going to choose a status of send email. And we expect a couple of things to happen. We should see Allison in the campaign history with a status of sent. That means the email did indeed go out. And then over here, we should see an email be logged, and we do. Perfect. Now, if we open up this email and we go to this right here, we can see that the from name is Lila Pouncer, but we can see that the sender over here is Cheryl Fernandez. And you're maybe going, well, what the heck is going on? Whoever is adding the person to the campaign is going to be the sender email. So since we're using the dynamic reply to address and the dynamic sender name, we don't have control over the sender email address. Now, when the contact gets this email, it is going to say from Lila Pouncer. And if they reply to the email, it's going to reply back to Lila Pouncer's email address. But in the email header, if they click on it, it's going to have Lila Pouncer's name with my email address next to it, which could be slightly confusing for the contact receiving this email. Now, one way to get around this is you can have your sales team add these leads and contacts to the campaign themselves, and then they'll be the ones that are triggering the automation to send the email out, and then their name and email and reply to email will all be theirs. So that's the best solution that I've come up with, that you can make sure that everything matches whenever you send out the email. Now I've logged in as Lila Pouncer here, and we're going to re-add Allison to the campaign so that you can see how the email looks different when the salesperson adds these people. Okay, so we should see another email down here, and we do. And so this second one here is the one that Lila sent. So if we click on that, we will see that the user is Lila. So now the email that the contact receives will have a from address, a from name, and a reply to address, all from Lila. Now let's go ahead and test the email opt-out portion of this flow. So we'll go to contacts, and we've got a contact, Gianni here, who has opted out. So we'll go ahead and add Gianni to the campaign. And we should see the status go to email not sent, which we do, and that's perfect. And we shouldn't see an email over here in the activity history, which we don't. So that email opt-out flow is working perfectly. Now let's test to see if our error messages are going to work. So let's take out the email template ID for our contact. And then we'll go to our contacts, and then we'll pick a contact over here. We'll go to Melinda, and then we'll add Melinda to the campaign. And we see that we do see the custom error message. Email was not sent to the contact. Please enter the contact email template ID on the campaign. That's awesome. And that's all the scenarios that we needed to test. If you are going to be using this with leads, you'll go ahead and test the lead scenarios exactly the same way. That's it. That's a wrap. Be sure to subscribe to Blue Tiger Academy so you don't miss out on the next video in our Salesforce campaigns and email series. We will show you how to create an automation that will update the campaign member status of a contact if the email is opened or bounced. You will learn how to create 3 different types of flows to achieve this automation. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions or if you would like to see a video on a different Salesforce topic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.